Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. This is the program, thanks to Cogeco, that allows us to get in touch with each other on the things that matter most to our town. Today we're going to talk about the brand new Oakville Community Center on Reynolds Street. And joining us to do that are the Town and Regional Councillor, Dave Gittings, and the Town Councillor, Janet Haslett-Theall, for the southeast part of town, also known as Ward 3 if you're doing it by the numbers. We also have Jen McPetrie and Brent Copeland. Jen is the manager of the center, and Brent he's got a very big title. He is the senior manager of operations, recreation, and culture. So I think that means if you've got a beef that's small at the center, see Jen. If you've got a really big one, see him. And if all else fails, see the counselors and me. Does that cover all the bases, guys? So Dave, the making of this center is a strategic story of huge value, and I think a really important one. Can you describe how we came to this? Because, you know, it's not a trivial building. As you can see, this beautiful pool behind, and that's just one of two. So the strategy helps explain how we afforded this. So Dave, tell how we got this.
Well, you're right. It's fairly complicated, and it worked out very well for all of our residents throughout Oakville. Mr. Mayor, it goes back to the Chisholm family donating the land 70-ish years ago, and it was the home of the Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital that grew and grew over 60-odd years, and finally, with the growth of Oakville, just couldn't serve our needs. So when the new hospital was announced, we had to figure out what to do with that space. At the same time, we had 3 school sites become available: Brantwood, Lynbrook, and Chisholm, former public schools, that we purchased as a council so we could control the zoning and future use of those lands. And so we formed the South Central land use study so we could look at all of the lands in totality, including Trafalgar Park over in Ward 2, because that needed some love as well. And so we were directed from the Park Recreation and Library Facilities Master Plan, which I guess started in 2006, and it lays out the framework where, as our population grows, what facilities do we need? Where should they be located? And importantly, how are we going to pay for them? It leads to our development charge study as well. So all of that came together and ultimately led to what we see behind us today on the screen.
Yeah, we had kind of an inspirational start in that before I became mayor, the town bought the abandoned Queen Elizabeth Park High School and then let it just sort of sit there. And in my first few years, we turned that into the largest rec center and the most popular rec center in the entire town. And that, you know, creating a rec center south of the highway, south of the highway never had a rec center, in my mind, created a need to make sure that the South Central and the Southeast also got one. And as for the land, you might be amused to know that when the hospital was telling us that we had to give them we had to make a donation. Remember, no, donations are voluntary. We had to make a donation to make the new hospital possible. I said, well, you have to give us the old land if we're giving you any money, if we're making a donation. And they said, oh, we're not going to give you the land. We're going to sell the land to a developer and make a lot of money to help build the hospital. And I said, well, maybe you know somebody else who'll make the donation you're asking the town for. Because if you're not giving us that land so that we can control it, you're getting nothing out of us. And eventually they coughed out. So Janet, that set you and the rest of the residents associations, because you were a resident association leader when we pick up the story. Why don't you describe how the last two came together?
So interestingly, when the 3 schools were purchased by the town, it really was a moment in time where people were obviously quite devastated, but it also highlighted lack of community space. Where are we going to play basketball? Where are we going to have meetings, et cetera? And so some of us were talking about how are you going to use those schools, and how can we get a community center out of this, so we have a community hub. And in the backdrop, this South Central land study is now starting to move forward. And several of us independently were going as board presidents to some of the consultations. And we were listening, and we were trying to delegate sort of the need for a community hub in different neighborhoods. And in the consultation process, several of us connected, and rather than have a arm wrestle over, are we going to get a community center in Ward 2? Are we going to get one in 3? Three of us sat down together and looked each other in the eye and said, I trust you, you trust me. Let's all do what's going to benefit all our neighborhoods. And so we formed a coalition, and the coalition grew from small number to 11 residents association, all saying fair geographic distribution of community services should be a principle within the Parks and Rec master plan. And the town council supported it when we brought it to you with a petition and with a strong delegation. And from there, we worked through, discussing where is that going to be, with a large amount of input from the town about the size of facility we'd need to service everyone's needs. And the collaboration was fulsome. It was almost 10 years in the process. But I will say that having the master plan process was really integral to it. It brought people together. And of course, looking across the room and saying, hey, we should talk. We should talk. Why don't we do this together rather than separately? We will all benefit if we work together. And I really think the community center's a vision of that when we work together, we can do much more for the community, and it's a whole lot of fun. So that's the backdrop from a community resident association perspective.
Yeah, and it illustrates beautifully the community engagement that the town of Oakville has. I've lived all over the world and many places in Canada, and I've never seen a town or a community for community engagement like we have. Like the Community Leaders Roundtable, bringing all the residents associations together, for example, and giving the room for those kinds of alliances to happen. Now, what's the best feature of the new center, Janet?
My personal best feature is I love the fact that when you walk in the front door, you can look from the front straight out onto the park. And if you're a mom, dad, brother, sister, you can look left or right and see an activity happening. I mean, to me, that's just, it feels warm and engaging, and all eyes can go everywhere. So I should say the fitness center, I should say the hands-sprung floor, I should say, the therapy pool, which is an awesome addition. But I really personally love the gallery. Like, I walk in and I go, isn't it wonderful that you can see everything just about, not the walking track, but you can see everything. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it takes the best feature of the Ward 6 or Northeast part of Oakville's rec center, the Iroquois Ridge Community Center, which has that central spine. And, Queen Elizabeth Park, on the other hand, is kind of it feels like a maze. I think there's 2 kilometers of corridors in that building. So, if you need to walk.
There's a misnomer. We say we have the largest walking track now, but I'm pretty sure if you walk Queen Elizabeth Park, it's a lot longer. It's just not a true walking track.
It's almost 150,000 square feet compared to about 50,000 feet for the Reynolds Street.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, it's bright and airy, and I agree with Councillor Janet. I like the parking garage. The ability to save that portion of the building, the old hospital, allowed us to have a wonderful park on the north side with over and 3,000 native plants and flowers and grasses, and that would have been parking lot.
Oh yeah, like the principle I tried to lay down when we saved Queen Elizabeth Park High School, because the plan at the time was to demolish the 150,000 square foot building and replace it with a 35,000 foot building. The principle I tried to lay down was never lose anything, like save your turf, protect what you've got. This was a town with a chronic shortage of space, and we're gonna throw away more than 100,000 square feet? I don't think so. Brent or Jen, who wants to talk about the groundbreaking swimming pool? There's some features to our pool here that need to be splashed about.
Absolutely, I can field that one for you, Your Worship, if you like. So this is Canada's first commercial Natare pool system. So we were very excited to have this pool in Oakville Trafalgar Community Centre. And it is not your traditional pool. A traditional pool, as you're familiar with, is a concrete shelled pool with tiled walls and floor. And that creates a little bit more maintenance. You have to drain the pool every couple of years for tile repairs, and you know, you're draining all that water, you're refilling it, you're heating all that water. This pool is 100% recycled stainless steel shell, and it also has a liner in it that provides some therapeutic benefit. It has a cushioning under the liner in the full therapy pool, and as well as the shallow end of the lap pool. So that would provide some cushioning for anyone with any joint or any therapy needs, and we're proud of that. It also reduces the amount of water. One, that you don't have to drain it as frequently. They say you can get up to 7 years without having to drain the pool. And two, it uses forced air for the filtration of for the backwashing of the pool. A traditional pool, when you're cleaning the filters, you're pushing the water through, and in this pool, you're actually using forced air. So they say that you can use up to 80% less water with this pool. So very excited about that. The therapy pool is new for Oakville. It's going to be kept at 92 degrees Fahrenheit, which is excellent for rehabilitation programs, for just general relaxation. The children are going to love it. It has an excellent water feature in it. It has jets at the side for either, you know, relaxing or for therapy. And the lap pool is at the ideal temperature for lap swimming. It's 84 degrees. There's 6 lanes of swimming, and both pools are fully accessible. We have a ramp entry into both of those pools. Similar to Councillor Haslett-Theall's comments, it has that connectiveness to the park. There's glass surrounding the pool area, glass into the lobby, so the whole facility is excellently laid out and very connected. So very excited to open that just very recently, last week.
Well, you know, the glass really made a difference. When we rebuilt Queen Elizabeth Park, we put a glass wall at the end, and that turned what had been a dark cave into it brought the outside in on one side. So this new one goes that same move 1 or 2 steps better. Jen, are you anticipating any fun or trouble with our first universal change rooms? Non-gendered change rooms? I think you need to maybe start with we have gendered stalls or private stalls or something like that, but reduce the anxiety I just raised.
Well, yes, we have 2 fully universal change rooms. So when you walk in, there's actually private stalls or partitions within each of them. They have individual size as well as family size, so they're larger for multiple people to be able to go in. Both of them lead into a vestibule area, which has open showers for people to rinse off before or going in the pool or coming out. And all of them have lockers. To your point, there probably is a bit of hesitation, but I think you need to be able to see it and try it to, before you fully engage in the hesitation. But there are some definite perks as well. So as a mom myself, there were times where, I have a son who's 9 years old. You're not ready to send them into a change room by themselves, so you want to be able to take them with you. That helps with those, as well as aging spouses or parents. From an accessibility standpoint, this really does allow for no barriers. And then we're in a time where we're also, open to transgender and anybody who wants to be able to use the facility. So it really is fully inclusive. And then within it, there are, full-size stalls for accessibility as well. So the biggest change for people is that you are not to be nude in the shower. You would have to use your bathing suit, but that is probably the biggest change. Everything else, because there are private stalls, you can change freely in those.
So how important, it's very important to me that the building is as efficient as possible, and that led to us insisting on making it LEED certified. How are the visitors and users of the center going to notice the LEED aspect of the building and the efficiency part of the building?
Oh, that's a great question, Your Worship. There will be photovoltaic, so solar panels that'll be visible from the roof. So you'll be able to see that, I'm sure, as you're walking along, Reynolds coming from the north, walking south. You should be able to see that on the roof line. They should be installed later this fall. We also are going to be having car charging stations within the parking garage, which is going to be an excellent new addition to the facility and promote that green environment as well. Something you're not going to be able to see, but you'll certainly feel throughout the center is our geothermal heating and cooling ability within the facility. So the beautiful 0.6 hectare park at the back, underneath all of that great playground and green space, is actually a geothermal field. So about 400 to 600 feet down under the earth, we have our geothermal lines zigzagging back and forth and then feeding into the facility. So we're picking up those cooler temperatures down there in the summer times and the warmer temperatures in the winter times to subsidize the heating and cooling requirement for this great facility. And as well, we talked about earlier the reduction of water usage in the pool and the reduction of heating costs associated with that from not having to drain the pool as often.
Well, speaking of the park and the playground, Dave, as a longtime, I would call leader in our community around accessibility, I know that we're calling it intergenerational and rehabilitation. Can you speak to that?
I'd love to. First of all, our council colleagues were fully supportive when we added the walking track, the therapy pool, and the double gym to the facility. And I guess the best way to describe that is I spent first 2.5 terms as the representative on the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And a couple of weeks ago, I got a note from a young lady that lives downtown and is disabled. And she was on her way up to have a tour of the facility. She had her first therapy lesson, or swim, if you will, last week with her mom. And she's joined the center because it's close by and there's nothing like this available anywhere. And so I think we're going to be offering these services for a lot of people, whether they're older, whether they're disabled, or whether it just helps them stay mobile. And so wonderful testament.
Yeah, and that does make the point that it's close, very close to the downtown. When the hospital was there, the walkability distance between the hospital and the downtown was such that a lot of people from the hospital patronized the shops and restaurants in the downtown. So Janet, we did something special with the trees, and I don't want to unfairly tag you as the tree lady or anything, but you have said a thing or two in my hearing about the trees. Why don't you say some of that now?
So first of all, Chartwell Maple Grove celebrated their 10th anniversary and thought, what a great way to celebrate by planting a tree, because they were a part of the coalition, and they wanted the park to be beautiful and have different native species, etc. So I give credit to them to starting the energy around it. And then the rest of the residents association said, yeah, we'd love to contribute a tree to the park. And then Dave and I spoke to others, and the town agreed that the coalition of 11 residents associations should have their own tree, which really speaks to what the plaque is going to say is that their community spirit and vision will live on at the community center. So we have lots of great trees. I think there's 60 of them. Not all of them donated and not all of them with plaques, but we have some core ones that the residents associations chipped in for. And then we have our celebratory tree. And I think it really makes the park even more part of our community and feels special for years to come.
Okay. Now, we're not finished remaking the Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital site. In fact, there's going to be residences off to the east of the rec center or the community center, and seniors housing running from Reynolds to Allen, where the old high school is. What's the status of that now, Dave?
Well, we should be out to tender later on this year. We've had a few delays with the pandemic, but for the single family lots along the south side of McDonald, and then the L Road, as we call it, that starts just below McDonald, adjacent to the community center down Allen, that will be going out for tender as well. And then the next step after that will be the seniors facility and our old Oakville Trafalgar school that we will be working on as well.
Yeah, we need to repurpose the old high school because as a leader of heritage preservation in Ontario, it won't do for us to have a heritage designated building boarded up and not being used, because a key principle of heritage preservation is that it gets a new life. So for a time we were very hopeful that the Oakville Galleries might move there, but I now understand that that might not be in the cards. We'll have to see. So it's time to start putting our thinking cap on in terms of what other uses we might make of it. We could add it to the seniors housing area there, perhaps, and that might be the best use of it, or the easiest one to bring off. Have you started consulting your residents and getting new ideas?
So I'll chip in and say that I've had some discussions again with the galleries. They don't want to give up on being able to get old OT, but it's a lot of money. It's $35 million for them to change that. So I think the galleries is having a more fulsome discussion about that location and what's possible. We've had lots of questions about, can we just get on with what the seniors design would be and how you could integrate, as you suggested, the old school with it. But I think they're looking for us to perhaps start that great consultation process again with some designs and options. And hard to do those in the midst of COVID times, but people are starting to say, so what's next? Because when you walk out of the community center, the first thing you see is a wall that needs some tender loving care on that old building. And then you look to your left and go, well, what are we going to do with that land? Could we do something? So I think that the community will start to come forward with their ideas.
Okay, well, that's certainly good to know. Speaking of community use, we've got multi-purpose rooms. Every community center has. Has there been any uptake yet, Jen, on the community rooms? And then I'm going to ask the councillors what they're hearing.
Well, there's definitely a lot of excitement from groups to start using it, as well as the public waiting to rent it for a birthday party or what have you. Unfortunately, obviously, during these times, we've had to halt our rentals to the same extent that we usually would. But the rooms themselves are fantastic, and they're going to be used for programming, like some fitness classes. There might be a yoga or Pilates. There will also be some children's programming in there, and then we can have it for our own meeting spaces, as well as for rental groups to use it for their meeting spaces, or, like I said, private parties. So there's definitely a lot of excitement. It's really airy, and the option to divide it into 2 smaller rooms or 1 larger room is a huge selling feature. And with the servery in behind, I think it will be a great space.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the divisibility of that thing. You know, it might be worth noting that this is no ordinary gymnasium. I think the biggest other gymnasium we have might be 6,000 feet. That's the one at Queen Elizabeth Park. Brent, how big is this one?
This gymnasium is about 10,000 square feet. It comes with the walking track actually overhangs the gym, which provides more runoff of the gym flooring. So it's a sprung hardwood floor. We have an NBA-sized basketball court running east and west. And then with the size of that, it allows for 2 junior-sized basketball courts running north-south. Or they can also be used for full-size volleyball, so 2 full-size volleyball. And then we have the ability to split that again into badminton and pickleball. So we have 4 pickleball or 4 badminton as well. There's a dividing curtain, a motorized dividing curtain that comes down from the center of the gym that separates that. So theoretically, you could have, different sports happening on either side. And, it's just beautiful. We have looking out over the park and into the Galleria, and we anticipate an awesome space for all abilities and ages.
Well, yeah, and I want to know, is there room for bleachers on the sides of this gymnasium?
Well, currently we have benches set up, but we have explored the option of having retractable bleachers along the on the north wall there. I believe there would be room for probably about three high of bleachers in the future.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for this. It's been terrific with you today. And we've a very exciting facility here. And I know that all that we've learned in our fleet of 6 community centers is going to inform our 7th community center, which we're going to build in North Park. And that's a commitment that the entire council has made. Please join us next time, and let me know, mayor@oakville.ca, if there's a topic you want covered. Thanks so much.